my colleagues and Americans watching this, the legislative branch of our government passes laws, and the executive branch historically works to enforce those laws. In a broad perspective, the executive branch is required to have a rule-making whereby the laws are interpreted and the means by which the enforcement of those laws shall be established across the country. This is reasonable and understandable. Federal law enforcement, especially when it comes to something as clear as enforcement of border and immigration law, is much less of a gray area. And the solution has been suggested here, one could argue that from my colleagues across the aisle, you've reached a solution, but it's not a solution within the parameters of enforcement of existing federal law as established by the United States Congress, and we are the legislative branch. So there's been an interesting interpretation of executive authority since January of 2021, whereby our current administration, if it doesn't like an existing law, it uses executive authority to find a way around that law. And that's what has happened with the incoming wave upon human wave of illegal migrants attempting to come into our country. The federal immigration laws that have been established by Congress have been essentially replaced by immigration policy that legalizes illegal entry into our country. And they tell you the numbers of illegal entry are down because this executive branch has redefined what an illegal entry is. The CBP-1 app goes down through Mexico and Central America into Colombia. And these migrant citizens, these children of God, who endeavor to enter our country, but they're undocumented, which makes them illegal. Historically, they would be intercepted at the border and handled appropriately. But this administration has changed that. They've diffused our border and essentially extended the American operations for border control down through South America and Central America and Mexico and established these so-called legal pathways. Now, see, a quote, please. There you go. Put the quote up from Mr. Sir, do you recognize these quotes as not trick stuff? These are your quotes. Do you acknowledge it? These are your quotes?
I can't read that from here, unfortunately, but
it's okay. From an NPR interview recently, you say, you know what we have done is really oversee a historic increase in lawful pathways to the United States, including at our ports of entry through the CBP-1 app. Do you acknowledge it? You said that?
I do.
Thank you. And you went on to say, and what we're really trying to do here is incentivize migrants to use safe, lawful, and orderly pathways that, again, we have expanded dramatically over the last 2 years. Do you acknowledge that that's your quote?
I do, and it's also in my opening remarks.
Yes, sir. So what we're establishing here is that this executive branch has redefined what an illegal entry is. You admit that exact policy agenda. So when you report that illegal migrants, the numbers are down, that's a shell game. It's like a magic trick. We were advised by Chief Ortiz in what I believe was his last confidential briefing that there were 657,000 immigrants in the pipeline south of the border. It was an interesting number, because Chief didn't say between 600 and 700,000. He didn't say, 650,000, give or take. He said 657,000. That's quite a precise number. Mr. Hubman, Mr. Nunez-Nito, I'll just ask you each and I'll yield the balance of my time. Where are those 657,000 people headed?
So I have not seen that particular estimate. We do know that
It was from the chief. He's now retired, and my time has expired. Are they headed north?
we believe many of them are waiting for the lawful pathways and processes that we have
In order to come
established,
north?
not just in Mexico, but in other countries along the
They're headed here. Mr. Huffman, do you agree they're headed here?
A lot of them are headed here, yes, sir. Some of them have stayed in other countries. Like we know there's many of the Venezuelans have stopped and stayed in Colombia. So there's a lot of people in movement, but generally this direction, yes, sir.
And thank you for your answer, gentlemen, for being here. My time has expired. I recognize